actually on living healthier. And so that is a great story. You know, those are things, these are stories why you do what you do. Sort of like I shared a story with you in the beginning. And the reason why we do stories, anyone want to take a guess why we use stories? Empathize. Correct. Yeah.
Well, I'm reading this book, Start With Why, Simon Sinek right now. So it's like making me think, but I know that it's easier to connect with people about like your own life rather than just like features.
Absolutely. So if you guys have a chance, we had another gentleman in the crowd who said that he's reading a book by Simon Sinek called The Start With Why. And actually there's a TED Talk. So if you want to read the book, you can. But if you want to go on to YouTube and watch the TED Talk for 18 minutes, he basically gives you the book in 18 minutes. So, but either way, I've read it and I watched the TED Talk multiple times. It's fantastic. It's a great place to start. It really highlights why you need to start with your why. Why do you need to communicate? Because it shows passion. He talks about, you know, really about how people like the Wright brothers, there was another person, I don't even remember his name, who was also at the time trying to invent an airplane and fly. And he had all the backing, all the coverage, all the money, but he never ended up, he didn't have the passion or the why to do it. And so he ended up failing. And the Wright brothers were the first ones because they had no money, they had no coverage, no one really knew what they were doing, but they had passion, and they had passion to invent an airplane and fly. And so those are why we now know the Wright brothers as the inventors of the airplane, not that other guy who I don't even know his name. So, so that's why the power of why is really important. And stories, to the point, is people's stories resonate. First of all, we will remember stories. I have a saying goes, facts tell, stories sell. Stories resonate with people. They stick with them. You will remember a story more so than you will remember numbers if I throw them to you. I bet you could give me some of my story right now faster than you could give me the stats that I gave you about Instagram. So that's the point of all this, is that when you can start with your story and lead with it and then tell stories as you're going through. That's the biggest point here, is that you have a general big story, but you also have these little mini stories inside your story that you're going to be able to use on Instagram and your social media to tell. You know, for example, like clients that you've worked with or hurdles you've had to overcome. These are all stories that you guys can really use. And also the point with stories is that it resonates with people. When you can market as you are relating to somebody else. I give an example of a realtor that I was working with. She was a divorcee. She's been divorced for 8 years, and she was really struggling to connect with people and get people to reach out to her, especially when she went to networking events. She couldn't really differentiate herself. So we talked about it a little bit. She started telling me how she runs a support group for people in divorce, divorcees, and mostly women. And then she started telling me a little bit about more what her story was and her background. I said, why don't you just go after people who are divorced? You know, they have to downsize. They have to find other places. They also have children that are growing up typically, that you can help them with properties. And she's like, that's great. That's exactly what I want to do. So she got in front of, that night, she got in front of a networking group, and she gave her pitch, and she emphasized her story and also what she did and how she helped people from a divorcee standpoint. And an attorney in the group went up to her right after and said, we need to talk. And he was a divorce attorney. And never had that ever happened to her, and that was somebody she really wanted to connect with. So it just goes to show, when you focus in on a specific group, but also tell a story, you will attract more people. And so this works both online and offline too. So if you don't have a story, I mean, everyone has a story, but if you haven't developed one yet, here are some quick tips. And you guys can see this here. I'm going to turn it a little bit. So first thing, start with your background. So where you came from, and then you want to lead into your why. So identify what your why was, how you found it, background into your why. Identify the solution or the problem, and then the solution of how you help people. And then you end with who you work with. And this is also a major point too. Does anyone have a specific niche that they work with?
I'm the real estate vet, so
Yes.
not that I just work solely with veterans, but that's kind of where my heart lies, I guess you could say.
And you're a veteran as well
I'm a
too.
veteran.
Yeah. Thank you for your service. I believe we met in another speaking engagement.
We did.
Yeah.
Maybe a place to go get some Italian beef. You know?
I have not. I've been more so watching my figure. That's why. But I will soon for a cheap meal. But yes, so like veterans is a great place to start with. Divorcees is another one. Could be young families, depending on where you are. It's always great and easier to do this. And let me just go into the next slide, which has a couple of these points. You know, it's who do you relate with is really how you can come about doing this. You know, for you, it could be because you're in commercial real estate. It's just about the business owner, right? Like,
and getting out of debt, no debt. Use commercial property instead of the stock market for your investment. So it's not making any more dirt.
and have you invested in commercial real estate?
You bet.
Yeah, so perfect. So there you go. You can relate to them. And you have a story to tell. You know, came out of, you know, working for a company for 25 years. Were you always in real estate and investing, or did you do it something when you got into it yourself?
Age of 50 started in real estate.
Okay, perfect. See, there's a story right there.
So when you talk about background there, are you talking about like I was born in a log cabin that I built myself kind of thing?
You could, if you want to go that far back. Just imagine, yeah. Because you never know, maybe someone else was born in a log cabin. Yeah. You can start as far back as you want in your story. You can start as close as you want. Trying to incorporate the story is a bit of it's an art. You got to really finesse it and work through it, and it's never going to be perfect, but you're going to have to make it improvements as you go. So people you can relate to, things that you're going through in different stages of your life. You know, veterans is a good one. I always say for people, if you recently bought a place in the last 5 years, like I have another client who actually is out of here. He bought a place when they first started his family, and then they started growing. And then they had to sell it and upgrade essentially because they didn't have enough space. And so that's another great niche to talk about families that are growing and be able to relate to that because that's something that you've gone through personally. So these are different areas in which you can build and identify who your clients are. Obviously, other parts of this is like location-wise, that's always good. Being a part of the community is always very important too. So we actually have an online class that we do a lot of this for the social media, and we teach you how to do it yourself. And this is a big part of it is building your story in there. So we actually show you how to do it and help you. Secret number 2, let's get into it. So Instagram. You guys want to take a look? Let's take a look at these properties real quick, and I'm going to move the camera over a little bit just because I'm going to walk over to the screen. What's the first thing that stands out to you guys? Pictures are good, right? Yeah. Okay. So you see the pictures are beautiful, right? Beautiful pictures. Now, what do you see underneath? Blah, 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 blah. Exactly.
Tons of hashtags.
Yeah. Tons of hashtags. You got hashtags over here. He puts in here just listed. He puts in some, specific, very general information, and that's really it. And it says, DM me for more details. Now, is anyone who's going to see these properties going to jump on and be like, I need to DM this person? No. Good. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, a direct message. We'll get you.
Okay.
This little button right here can take you to the direct messages. So, yeah, so it's very bland. There's not much of a story behind this. Yeah, exactly. That's all you see. It's like wah, wah, wah from Charlie Brown. Just in case for the younger people who don't know.
Everything's an info though.
Yeah, that's true. So what he could have done here, what do you guys think he could have done here that would have made this better? Well, he's got 3 pictures actually. So these little dots show he's got multiple
Virtual tour or?
You could do virtual tours actually, which are good. You could do videos instead of a picture. And the reason why you could do a video, now the video is only 60 seconds. You could do a longer one though. It would go into what they call IGTV, and then you could put like a snippet in it here, but it can only be 60 seconds inside of Instagram. So you do a really quick one and then say, hey, check out my stories, which is part of Instagram. And here I'll show you real quickly. So if you go at the top and you look at the top of Instagram, you have a bunch of these people's faces that you follow, and these are their stories. And so you can click on here and see things that they post, and you can have as long as you want in the stories. Essentially, you can hit record and go through a tour, and essentially, I think you probably have like about a minute, about like 3 minutes or so that you can hold it, and it goes all the way through. But then eventually stops, but then you can continue to record it if you want to. So that's a great way of just kind of teasing them here and then pulling them up into your stories and showing a longer version. And definitely doing a virtual tour is a fantastic idea. Also, you can tell a story in your virtual tour or in the video in general and just tell a story about the place. That'll help. But that's the key here. In the captions, they're missing a story. Now, you have to be kind of careful because you got the Fair Housing Act and everything. You can't say too much. But at the same time, you can still tell stories. You can still find a story inside of here talking about the inside, possibly different ways they can use it. Obviously, you got to be careful a little bit and what you say, but there are ways to tell a story that describes this property that's going to stick out more than what this says right here. So here's another one. What do you guys see here?
Lots of blah, blah, blah. That's a boring photograph.
Yeah.
It's a garage door.
It is. Now, in his defense, he's got multiple images that you can slide through. But yes, you're right. That is not the best image in the world. What he has done here, or I don't know if it's a he or she, but let's say them, they put in open house, which is not necessarily bad. But again, telling a bit about the property, kind of tease people into it would be fantastic. Tell a little bit of a story there, tease them into the open house. This is just too much. Like thinking of selling your property, that's just way too much advertising. That's going to get people confused. Do you want me to go to open house? Do you want me to contact you? I'm not quite sure. Then you overload people and then they just leave. And so you got to be very direct in each post in what you do. And then he has hashtags. Hashtags are good, but there's ways to kind of drop it down further so it's not crowding the initial message right here. The thing he does do good here is that he does have calls to action. Predominantly, again, the ones right here that you don't really want too much, and it's kind of overlaying with what he's doing here, but having a call to action is important. You want to make sure you do that. I have a rule that we use, and when it comes to posting, and I think this is important talking about this specifically because it's the 70-30 rule. So you've heard the 80-20 rule. This is 70-30 rule, and this comes down to posting. So 70% of the time, you actually want to post added value information. So added value information can be a lot of different things. It has to pertain to your audience, so understanding who your audience is extremely important, again. But let's say you go after young families, right? And what else, besides the property itself, what else is important to young families?
School district. School
districts, absolutely. Anything else?
Walking trails, playgrounds.
Absolutely.
Swimming pools.
Yeah, and different times of the year, there's different things that are important to families. So for one, what you want to do with this added value is become a resource for them. And so what you do is, in this circumstance, if you're using the young family as an example, summer's coming up, summer camps. Actually, what was it? The community newspaper just came out with like 58 summer camps and a list of it. That's something that all realtors who work with young families should be sharing. and you can grab a picture. It doesn't have to be one that you've taken, and post a picture of a summer camp and put in there, hey, there's a bunch of great article on the community. You can actually link it to them, and you can say, hey, if you're interested, go check out the 58 summer camps they're going to. You can even share, like, my kids go to, maybe you don't want to put that information out there, but you could say, you know, some of these camps look really interesting and we're going to be looking into them as well.
When someone clicks on your Instagram site and does anything, do you get any form of notification?
So if they send you a message, you get a notification. If they like it, or they leave a comment, you get yeah. So you have to set it up so you get notifications on there. You can hide the notifications. I hide them just because I don't like getting my phone dinged all the time. But essentially, when you go into the app, it will show you everything that people are doing on your profile and your pictures. And then if you actually set it up for a business profile on Instagram, you can actually get to see insights. So you can see how many people are engaging with your pictures. You can see the likes. You can see all the analytics inside of your posts. And so that's really important. You can even see how many people are linking or clicking on the links in your profile too. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk for a minute about the pros and cons of setting up as a business versus setting up as personal?
Yeah,
I think in Facebook we've got that, or I have that accomplished, but I'm not clear about that in Instagram. And can you have both?
You definitely can have both, but you would have two different accounts. And what I suggest is that the main difference, so it's a little bit different on Facebook, right? Like Facebook, they actually require you, if you're going to be promoting about business, you need to have a business account.
Right.
Instagram's not that way, at least not yet. You just get added benefits with having a profile, a business profile in Instagram. Mainly, there's the insights perspective that you get, so you can see the stats. You won't get that on a regular profile. And you also get like buttons that say call and email on your profile too, inside a business profile. I'm going to show you real quickly to show you what I'm talking about here. But those are the major differences, and how you approach it, whether it's a business profile or personal profile, wouldn't be any different. Like I always suggest, like, and we talk about the 70 added value, you should also post personal information on there. So pictures of things that you're doing. Let's say if anyone liked to golf. No? Okay. All right. You're a sailor? So posting pictures of you sailing every so often is not a bad thing. Because again, what does that do? Creates you're a human being. Someone can relate to you. Someone says, oh, you know what? I actually like sailing too. And they can start a conversation that way. For some reason, this is not picking up. I was going to try to mirror my phone on to the screen, but it's not picking up. So we'll have to do without that right now. But yeah, that's the major difference here. And so you should definitely put in personal stuff, even if you have a business account. And so I would recommend you have the business account over the personal one.
How do we know which account we have? I've had this set up for a really long time, but I haven't done anything with it.
It's pretty easy. If you go into your profile and you go to your profile inside of Instagram, I'll show you.
You can have both.
You can, but it's going to have to be two different accounts.
Right.
That's the only thing. I don't really suggest it because I think for what you're doing, you're both showing a personal perspective of your life. But I definitely can see why some people might want to. So here's the thing. If you go into your profile, let me show it on the screen. So you can see that, and then what you can see is down here you have call, email, and then you see promotions, and you'll see that. And then it also will show you like 515 profile visits on the top here. So yours is definitely not.
This is person.
Yeah, it's the person.
So how would I convert it?
So
And
actually,
that's probably not a question for this time.
I can show you afterwards.
Okay.
All right, so back to the postings. So we said 70% are added value, summer camps, personal pictures or adventures. Then you get on the 30. So 30 is going to be calls to action, open houses. Open houses, new listings. You can even have, if you have something that what we call like a lead generator, you want to draw people into something. Could be like if you're doing a speaking engagement, or it could be like even if you have a guide that you want to download, or maybe you created a series of videos that people can use for they're interested in selling or buying a property. These are things that you can promote. And then if let's say you have a link that you want to send people directly to, there's a couple different ways you can go about doing that. One, you can put the link inside the actual in the caption. Now, the only problem with that is that people actually have to copy that and then paste it. They can't click through. It's not hyperlinked inside of profiles. What you then can do is actually set it up in your profile, in your link, and they ask you for a website, and you just drive people, say, hey, you can either go to this address, or, and I always joke around, people say, hey, if you're lazy, just go to my link in my bio, and then they can go there and click on that, and that's hyperlinked inside your bio. And you can change that as many times, change it back and forth. I do that all the time. My link changes quite a bit.
So it'll only allow one link as opposed to multiple.
Correct. Yeah. And the only link you get, the only hyperlink is inside your profile specifically. So you could put, like I said, you put a web address inside here, just won't be able to hyperlink. Just like you can see, like the email address, they can't click on it. So, so 70-30 calls to action is the 30. The other question is that people always ask, like, how often should I post? 2 times a day, at least.
This is specific to Instagram.
Correct. It does translate into like LinkedIn and Facebook, stuff like that too. I would suggest at least 2 times a day. Instagram, you can actually, the more you post on Instagram, the better. If you do it 4 times a day, it doesn't mean you have to do it every day 4 times a day, but if you do it, it's never a bad thing. Reason is that when you set it up the right way, you're going to actually draw in more people. So the other thing you want to do, and we can talk about this a little bit too, this actually helps in going to the next point, is the hashtags. So when you create a post, you want to make sure you put in at least 10 hashtags. I know it looks, some of the looks in the audience is like, oh my God, I can't believe 10.
Hashtag is a searchable term.
Correct.
Yeah, I see my daughter using it all the time.
Now, for other social media sites, except for like Twitter, hashtags aren't really that relevant. Like they have them on Facebook, they have them on LinkedIn now, but it's not really a big. People don't find people by hashtags in that circumstance. Instagram, they do. That's how they find you. So actually, when you put these hashtags, and the more consistent you are with the same hashtags, it helps. And that's how you grow organically to get a certain following. I grew, just by using hashtags, I grew my following to about 800 people organically. So, and then I started using a tool, and then I grew it like triple the size. So, yes, sir.
So you guys can use hashtag the real estate
to help him out. So the other thing is how do you find the right hashtags, right? And this always goes back to who you serve and what you do specifically. So for example, if you're serving a certain community, let's say Leander, Cedar Park, you can actually use hashtag Leander, Texas, TX. You can use hashtag Cedar Park, TX. And what I recommend is that when you start typing it in, if you create a post, we'll just pull this up real quick. So when you start creating a post, you can type in the hashtag and if you use one very often, I know it's kind of hard to see, they will show up, the ones that you use often, and as soon as you put in hashtag or pound sign, and then underneath it, it shows you how many posts are relevant to that hashtag. So you can see like some of these are like 437. The larger the amount of posts in there, the better. But you don't always want to be at like the ones that are like 10 million, because then this would be hard to be found. But like when there are over 100,000, those are good. For some of the local areas, you can have smaller numbers, like Cedar Park, I think ranges between like 35 to like 40,000 in the posts. But again, if that's where you're targeting and that's where you're focusing, that's where you want to spend your time putting the hashtag so people can find you. Because what also has happened is that this has changed over the last couple of years, but people can actually search, they search by hashtags inside of Instagram, and they also follow hashtags. So this is something else that you might want to do too, is that if you find like a local place or a specific niche that you're following, you should follow the hashtag, because then it'll show up in your feed what's going on, and that's an opportunity for you to find out what people in your community are doing. You can start conversations that way. That's kind of what we're going to talk about in the next section in all of this. Yeah, so if you, the hashtags? Yeah, so if they want to, that's typically how they find you. But yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily want them, once they come to your post, you don't want them to leave. But yeah, that's right.
I don't understand how 100,000 would be good for somebody to find you.
Well, 100,000 might not be good for you specifically, but let's what communities do you serve?
I'm kind of all over, so you know.
Do you have a niche?
All my business comes from referral. 95% of it.
Okay.
It's referral. If I had a niche, I would say first-time home buyers.
Okay.
We can use it.
So you got first-time home buyers is a hashtag you can use. You can also use the locations. If you're all over the place, you can just put in Austin.
Right.
Austin's a relatively large one.
Yeah.
There's a couple different hashtags you can use for that. But they're just going to find in whatever you're posting. If people find it relevant or they like it, they're going to like your post. They're going to like your picture, and then they also are going to follow you. What's a good thing is that you can grow it organically that way, but also you can use it just for reference purposes. Like if you have clients who are on Instagram, they can follow you on Instagram, and if they're liking you, that's another way of kind of spreading the virtual word of mouth. And so, although are you looking for more business, or are you comfortable with just the referral base? So just use it for like a awareness. Yeah, awareness purposes.
So, I mean, do people actually pick up Instagram and search in Instagram for something?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I've never done that. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she did a search, and so when she does that search, it's those hashtags that show up. Is that correct?
Correct.
People who use, so she did a search, photographer in Hawaii. Anybody who has a hashtag photographer in Hawaii is going to show up in her feed.
Well, it's going to show up in the search first.
In the search.
Yeah.
And then she can scroll through those people.
Yep, absolutely. So, I'm sorry, you were going to say something? So, a hashtag is essentially using like the pound sign and then a word after it. And what that does is it allows you to find things or people to find you. It's like a searchable term. Yeah, so actually how you structure the post is that you would start with like your story, and then you can separate sentences by using periods, and then you can push it down where you add the hashtags at the bottom.
I was told that if you put the hashtag as the first comment,
Uh-huh.
that it breaks it up and it's easier. It doesn't look so overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that too. That's another way. And that's what I used to do, but I found that what I do now is actually I will put a description or a sentence, and I put a period, and then just once I get and I'm done, I put like 10 periods, so it drops it all the way to the bottom, and then I put the hashtag, just so it doesn't take up comments.
Okay.
Yes.
When it comes to hashtags, an example, ATX Realtor.
Yeah.
Strategically, is that probably not a good idea to use just because there's probably thousands of realtors using that hashtag?
It's not bad because there could be people who search for it. Just like that example of someone who's searching for a photographer, they searched for that. So it could be one of those, but you really should be more focused on the type of people you're serving. So hashtags that revolve around them, also hashtags that are relevant to your picture of whatever you're talking about, and then also your location too. Yes, it allows your post to be more searchable.
So I have another really elementary question.
Sure.
So this is like the third Instagram post. So let's say that, let's say we take one of our hobbies, like I have a poodle. So
Okay.
let's say I take pictures of my poodle and I do hashtag poodle lover, hashtag poodles in Austin, hashtag whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Austin Dog Alliance, something like that. So if those people start following me,
Mhm.
right? And then I post something that has to do with real estate.
Mhm.
Will they see that?
Absolutely. That's kind of
That's
a strategy.
That's the strategy, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's why you add value, you bring in some personal stuff, you relate to people on that perspective, and then they're like, oh, wow, she's a realtor. Plus, you'll put it in your profile that you're a realtor too, so they'll see that regardless.
Can they go look at the profile, my profile?
Yeah. That's what a lot of people do, is that like, they might
They
like,
find to somebody and then they go read the profile and see what the profile says?
correct.
Okay, I guess because I've never used it,
Mhm.
I don't know the features of Instagram,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
And it's pretty easy to pick up. Once you start using it a little bit more often, you'll understand how people use it.
Right, and then to go back to your story.
Yep.
So to create the story, we're not telling the story, we're showing it in pictures.
Yeah, but you can
We're
also use,
demonstrating what our story is.
correct, yeah. And there's, like I said, there's little mini stories. So you could, and I do recommend this, but like, let's say part of your story is from how you were brought up, right? And you could actually share a picture from back then. And, on Thursdays, they have what they call TBT, which is Throwback Thursdays. So if you really wanted to get in there.
Seriously, that's a thing?
Yes.
May I brush my teeth?
There's that too. There's Flashback Fridays, Taco Tuesdays. I mean, there's something for everything. Man Crush Mondays is what it was. Yeah, it's a Wednesday Woman Crush or something like that. Yeah. So, and anyway, so you could throw a picture up there, and then you could tell, like, say, hey, this is from when I started off. And so you don't have to go in your full story, but you tell parts of it.
Right,
And go through.
snippets.
Yeah. Exactly. You could also use your video. Video has become more and more prominent.
Right.
With Instagram, it was usually just a picture, a still picture. But now they give the video capabilities, that's a big part of it. And using the stories is also a big part of it as well.
And so stories is different than the video.
Correct. Stories
The
is
stories are video.
yeah, it can be, or it can be pictures as well. But the difference with the stories is that it disappears in about 24 hours.
Okay.
It's kind of like what, if you guys know what Snapchat is, similar to like Snapchat. Facebook has stories though too now.
Right.
But it actually is going to be eventually what's going to happen is that Facebook owns Instagram.
Right.
Facebook changes their algorithm all the time. And they change it quite a bit for businesses. I'm assuming that at some point they're going to change the algorithm in Instagram and it's going to push businesses and people down further. So stories is going to be a place where it's still going to be easy for people to see your information. So actually a lot of times what happens is that because once you post a picture, depending on how many people someone is following, let's say they follow like 200 people, you're fighting against 200 other people to get in that person's newsfeed. And the algorithm is that if you interact with those pictures more, they're going to be brought up higher in the feed. So using the stories actually keeps you at the top and they can see it easier.
I see.
Yes.
Yeah, as far as like, so I've noticed that if I use the feature on Instagram where it'll share to like our business Facebook page, that the reach on the Facebook goes way down, like versus like doing a post within Facebook.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a way to like around that.
Yeah, there's not really a way around that. What I always recommend is that although you can share it, and I do it too sometimes, I always recommend that if you can and you have the capabilities, just share both it on Instagram and then go into Facebook and do the same thing there instead of sharing it from Instagram into Facebook. Because also what's going to happen is that the problem with that is that when you do it with Instagram, you structure a post differently than you would in Facebook. Facebook, you can hit enter and you can separate sentences, paragraphs. Instagram, you have to hit those periods to separate it so it's not all clumped together into one. So it looks different. Yes.
So I've launched a YouTube channel. Proprietary to different.
Yeah.
Do you think that it would be kind of detrimental to the algorithm if I were to promote a YouTube channel from Instagram?
No, not at all. I think it's great. Yeah, cross promotion is awesome. Yeah. What you can even do is like whatever video you have, you can create a 60-second clip, put it on Instagram, and then say, hey, if you want to watch the full clip, go over to my YouTube channel. And I think YouTube's a great channel for people to be on too. It's becoming more and more popular, especially with younger people. I'm considered like the oldest millennial possible because I'm at 1983 is when I was born, and 82 is the cutoff. But I tend to watch more YouTube. Okay, nice. So yeah, we're the OGs of millennials. But I tend to. Do you watch a lot of YouTube? Yeah, I do too. And I found that over the years, I've watched more and more. I actually prefer to watch YouTube sometimes on TV because I can just get clips of what I want to see versus having to sit through and watch the commercials and trying to forward through it. So it's actually quite effective, especially for certain demographics. That's a whole nother conversation. All right. So creating calls to action, that's a big part of it. So here's a quote from one of the best marketers that has ever lived, David Ogilvy. He talks about what you say in marketing is more important than how you say it. All right, yeah, and I know we have 10 minutes here, so I'm gonna try to get through this. We're probably like halfway through, but I'll try to get through this as fast as possible. So this is important. This is why we talk about creating a story, the captions and everything. And if you do it the right way, you can actually close deals from it. And so how you can do that is when you find people. And so this is where using hashtags really are effective. If you get into going in here and you start following a certain hashtag, you can go in there and start leaving comments. You can start leaving comments. You can start to what they call slide into people's DMs, which is going into their direct messages and having conversations with them. So the strategy that I always use is that if, let's say, people start following you and you know that they live in a certain area, let's say you got an influx of people in like the Cedar Park or the Austin area, what you can do is start having conversations with them in your DMs. And you can do a couple of different ways. You can be very aggressive and go straight forward and be like, hey, I'm a realtor. If you ever need place, blah, blah, I'll help you out. Usually that never works. I get that message from realtors all the time, and I'm just like, does this ever actually work? And maybe it does, but probably on a very small percentage. What's better off is start to have a conversation with people. And then what's even better is if you have some sort of like added value or CTA, but it's not like come my open house, but it can be something of value like, hey, if you're interested in possibly investing in properties in the future, I have a great, video that you can watch. Here, watch that. And then you can come and follow up with that. Or perhaps you have something else that can really attract people, what they call lead generation, or a lead magnet, and you can send that off to people, and then you can say, I'll follow up in a couple weeks or a couple days with you. I actually do that a lot with realtors specifically, and it works. You don't have a high percentage of closing people, but you have a better percentage than going straight for the jugular, let's say. Yes, ma'am.
So I was wondering, you have followers and you have people following you.
Correct.
Like on Facebook, you ask people to like your page and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How do you get them to start following you more? Is it only by the videos, or can you actually go on and ask them to do that, or do you start following them and hopefully they'll follow you back?
There's that kind of strategy, which you can get really sucked into following a lot of people you don't necessarily want to see their stuff.
Right.
And what I always suggest is that you really should only follow people that you want to see their information. Using the hashtags is extremely effective to growing your following. So again, the combination of using the right hashtags and also the combination of posting on a consistent basis, at least 2 times a day, you will see a very strong growth.
Start on following you. So it's something just fun, quirky, maybe start out, or just putting a little instead of like that.
Absolutely, yeah. And then if you follow that rule, the 7/30 rule, 70/30 rule, that'll help. You know, posting, you know, added value stuff 70% of the time, then adding call to action 30% of the time, and then do it at least 2 times a day. That'll help grow it organically. What I found actually is that the less you post, the more your following drops off. So that's what happens.
And what's the best way to do your bio? Should you start with saying hello, or should you just do a little info about yourself and how short you keep it?
Yeah, so you only have like 300 characters, I think. So you really have to keep it to a minimum. So, you know, kind of explain who you are. Like, people do it different ways, but what I suggest is that try to follow some people that are like other realtors that are really prominent on Instagram. There's easy ways to find them. I suggest a woman, her name is GoGo, I forgot her last name, but if you go GoGo Real Estate on Instagram, she's got like 30,000 followers on there, and she's fantastic. She's grown her business strictly from using social media and organically too. She doesn't pay for it in any way. So she did it a little bit, but I actually have a podcast and an interview with her, and she talks all about she grew her social media following. She's fantastic. She's a great person to follow on there. There's another woman on here that I'm about to interview for my podcast. Her name is Raina. Let me just see if I can pull up her handle. It's Real Estate by Raina. Rana is her name. Her last name is Zand, Zand. If you guys follow like those type of people, you can even look up some like the big people, some of the people that are on like it's the Bravo show, Millionaire Real Estate Listing Agent or something like that. There's some personalities, they have it. If you just look at those type of people, what they post, but also how the profile is set up, that'll help a lot too of how you structure it. You can put hashtags in your profile, but I don't necessarily recommend that. And then you can use emojis. Emojis are good. So that's the best way I would do it for creating your profile. And those are good people just to kind of see what they're doing. As I mentioned, as you're contacting people, if you put out a call to action, make sure you follow up with people. That's the biggest thing. If you have a CRM, fantastic. Use that. Make sure you're tracking everything. It takes a little bit of an effort, but it's extremely effective. The magic is in the follow-up. I mean, you guys know that. So that's the key in all this. So, okay, well, we got to the end. So just to review real quickly over the 3 secrets we talked about today. How to be first in the minds of your people. So essentially telling your story, and then how to spread your message and grow your business. So using Instagram specifically to do that, and then how to effectively communicate with people to build valuable relationships. So who wants to generate some leads? All right. So if you don't mind, I can share with you real quickly kind of a little bit what we can do to help you. You guys okay with that? All right. Awesome. So we have a couple different ways. I work with people on a consulting basis. We also do a little bit of a management, just depending on the size of the company. But a lot of what we're doing right now is online training. So I have an online training portal. We have a couple different classes that we offer, but everything on there, it's all video based and it's real live action. So you get into the nitty gritty. We show you how to do it. As I mentioned throughout some of the slides in here, we actually give you everything. So you don't really have to think too much. You just have to apply it. And that's the main thing, is that we don't do the work for you. We show you what to do, and what strategies have worked for us and for our clients, and then we give it to you and you guys just apply it. So there's a lot of, you don't have to think too much about it. So we give you everything from soup to nuts. There's a couple client testimonials, and we are launching the revamped version of our social media money-making course. So that includes Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. It's all three, how to use them together. If you guys are interested, just let me know. We have a pre-order, so it saves you a little bit of money on that. And if not, if you're just interested in how we can help you in general, I'd love to have a conversation with you guys, meet with you guys one-on-one. Like I said, I'll send out the slide, but you can go to Calendly. You can pick your own time on there, and we can sit down one-on-one and talk a little bit more about your business. And at the very least, I can give you some tips. And if you guys want to, then we can explore the opportunities of how we might be able to help you. And yeah, so schedule a time, or you can stay after. We can talk a little bit after here, and if we want to schedule a time, we can do that. Biggest thing too is that we provide a bunch of free content, and I give away like how-tos and stuff on my podcast. So if you guys want to check it out, it's on all the major platforms. It's the Brandon Lewin Show. Nothing too clever as far as the name goes. Keep it real simple. But we got some great interviews from successful agents, also people that are also working in different parts. We have one that's really been popular, which is on video marketing for realtors. So there's an episode on that as well. So this is my contact information. If you guys want to take a picture of that, feel free. And Darren, thank you so much, my friend, for having me on today. This was awesome. I hope everyone everywhere had a fantastic time and got to pick up some information. And I'm glad we could keep it on time too. This is almost a rarity. So
you did great. You did great. And I just wanted to thank everybody that came to the classroom today up in Cedar Park for our first Stewart broadcast. And I'd like to thank everybody who joined us online. I think this was a great format, and we look forward to bringing Brandon back to talk more about social media. In fact, I think we'll get another Facebook class on the schedule for April. So look for emails to come in your Stewart Source email. And you can always reach out to myself or any of our sales executives throughout the city. And you can always go to stewart.com/Austin and check out all our classes that we're offering throughout the city. So thanks again, everybody, for attending today. Visit our website. And Brandon, thank you very much. And you guys have a wonderful day.
Before we end,
yeah.
I mean, I'm open. I'm stick around a little bit more. If anyone has any questions online or in person, I could go through a few more things if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go for it. If you want me to keep it going live, we'll just keep streaming live. It's no big deal.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
all right, let's do it.
Anyone online has any questions, please feel free to chime in now and let us know. And then, do you guys have any questions? Yeah.
Hey, Brandon, I'll go ahead and unmute everybody just in case they have some questions. How's that?
Sounds great.
I got rid of personal Instagram, so I want to create a business Instagram. Is the name kind of important in terms of creating that, or is that all going to be associated with?
One thing I suggest when you think about a name is that don't have a whole lot of numbers in it. Like a lot of times people get the suggestion when you sign up and they say, hey, you know, your name is taken, so put in your name plus like 1983 or something like that. I don't really suggest that. But beyond that, you can be as creative as you want. If you already have a brand with like your YouTube channel, and you have a name for that, I would use that same name if you can in there.
I'm part of the team. The team name is something at 512 Real Estate.
Okay.
So Brandon Bartlett, something at 512 Real Estate.
You'd have to see if it, I don't know if that'll be accessible on there, but you could do like a version of that. And I think that's good.
I would suggest that time to.
You can always change your username though too.
Unless you own the team name.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Like I own the team name, right? So I use it no matter who's on the